Welcome to the Bureau of Middle East Recycling first ever virtual recycling conference. For those of you who don't know me, I am Susie Burridge, President of the 100-year-old British Metals Recycling Association in the UK, and I'm incredibly honoured to have been asked by BMR to be your host today. Thank you to everyone who has joined us here in the virtual auditorium. I know for some of you it will be early in the day and for others late in the evening. But whatever your time zone, we have a full programme for you, with top-level guest speakers and distinguished panellists from around the world. So sit back and enjoy. I would like to start today's programme by introducing you all to the dynamic team who thought out of the box and have delivered us this virtual conference experience, the board of BMR. The President, Mr. Nasser Aboura, the Vice President and BMR founder, Mr. Mir Mujtaba, the Secretary General and BMR founder, Mr. Muzamil Hajamin, the Honorary Chairman, Mr. Salam Al-Sharif, the Treasurer, Mr. Ansel Gupta, and their fellow board members, Mr. Monir Al-Sharif, Mr. Ibrahim Sharu, Mr. Sabir Malik, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, Mr. Fadi Aboud, Mr. Sanjeev Khanna, Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, Mr. Sanjeev Farki. Thank you, gentlemen. Around the globe, we are all experiencing unprecedented times, and we are all attempting to navigate our way through this COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, no one can tell us how long this crisis will go on for, because no one knows. But it will pass, and some degree of normality will soon return. We must be optimistic, as moments of difficulties often bring opportunities and ideas, and these can enable us to overcome our challenges. Just as the BMR board were inspired and created this, their first virtual recycling conference, which has enabled us all, despite travel restrictions, to meet here today. So as your host, it is now my pleasure to invite back to our virtual auditorium stage the founder member of BMR, the managing director of Jupiter Metals in UAE, the ambassador for the Global Recycling Foundation, and the BMR vice president. This is not four men, this is one man, an engineer by profession with a master's in marketing and 3 decades of technical commercial experience, the charismatic Mr. Mir Mujtaba.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope you all can hear this person's clear voice together. First of all, welcome to this first ever historical recycling virtual conference organized by BMR. I need everybody who are watching to please give a round big of applause for BMR for organizing such a show. Susie, it's wonderful that you have given me a big introduction. I highly appreciate, and just want to inform everybody that Susie is going to be the host for us. She's going to really work very hard to see that this conference goes very well with good success. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and delegates who are really representing and watching this conference, on behalf of the President and the entire BMR board, I would like to welcome one and all for the first historical virtual conference organized by Bureau of Middle East Recycling. I don't have much words to say. We have started this conference right now. We have a very excellent agenda in front of us. What I can say to all my delegates who are watching this show and attending this conference is that we took a lot of time, actually. I took a lot of time along with my board to have this agenda presented before you. It's not something which is an ordinary agenda which we made. We tried to look into the whole eagle view, with an eagle view of who are the best speakers and panelists available in around the world. And trust me, we could not find anybody other than the 32 panelists and the speakers and the moderators. And according to whatever knowledge I have in this industry, they are the best available in the world. So first of all, I welcome them, and I would like everybody to give a round of applause for all our panelists, moderators, and exhibitors who have joined us to make this conference a big success. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember, this is not just a webinar. This is a full-fledged conference where you can visit the auditorium, you can sit in the auditorium, you have the exhibitors room, you can go to the exhibitors room, you can go to the lounge, you be in the lounge, and you can, the best part is, you can chat around and have business concluded. I have seen, just before I could come on the stage, I have seen that a lot of delegates who are there, who have really come in. I could see 780 or 790 people already in the chat room, already chatting and moving around the booths. This is the success. When during the uncertain time of pandemic, where everybody have been sitting at homes and thinking what is to be done for the recycling industry, it is we at BMR took the initiative that why don't we get everybody connected under one platform. That was the best message we could give you. We connected everybody in one platform, and this is just kept open to everybody, free of cost. So ladies and gentlemen, I would not like to take much time, but definitely I would like, as a vice president, to take the honor to introduce a very, very dynamic, a very highly experienced and recycling, running around more than anybody sees WCs and RBCs in the blood cells. But I see this gentleman with total recycling blood cells going inside him. Under his leadership, what we have today is what we are achieving. Let me call upon and invite our Honorable President, Mr. Nasser Abura, to come on the dais. A big round of applause for our Honorable President who is here with us.
Thank you, Mirbai. A very pleasant morning, afternoon, evening to one and all. We are running an event worldwide with our delegates joining us from all different parts of the world, from the west to the east. So this is rarely one of the rare events that is running this way. Let me thank you all of being with us today. On behalf of the Bureau of Middle East Recycling and our respected board members, it is with immense pleasure and thrill I welcome you all to the very first ever BMR Virtual Recycling Conference. We are delighted to have you with us to participate and share a wide range of topics and issues affecting the recycling fraternity all across the world. BMR stepped forward and took the bold initiative to organize this special virtual event to bring the international recycling together during these unprecedented times. What makes this event so unique that it is a full-fledged conference in virtual form. Delegates can have access to our distinguished speakers and panelists at the auditorium, meet the more than 30 exhibitors at the exhibition hall, and network with all registered delegates on our special prepared BMR mobile app, where one-to-one chatting is available, chat rooms are active, and all information, live LME prices available, and business can be done through that app. As with the COVID-19 still ravaging the world, and as all the planned conferences are getting canceled, BMR board have decided to have this conference, including the networking opportunity to all delegates for free, irrespective of whether they are BMR members or not. As now more than ever, there is a need to give our members and industry partners a platform to network, build connections, and exchange ideas. Across the globe, the recycling industry has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Recyclers, traders, importers, exporters, port operators, shipping lines, and transporters have all faced big challenges on how to continue with their businesses given lower trading volumes and cash flow problems. BMR main concern initially was to keep functioning even during the lockdown so we can be able to extend all the help and support to our members. BMR have been constantly active in to follow the problems our members are facing and our industry are facing, and working with all our colleagues in the different associations all over the world to exchange information and work together to help the industry. BIR initiative to have regular meetings for the World Recycling Council's leaders have been running on a regular basis, and BMR was active on that. And let me here thank Mr. Tom Bird, BIR President, for taking this initiative to keep this, those meetings running, which were very much helpful and beneficial for us all, for all the industry. During the lockdown in India, the recyclers faced a huge problem with the piling of containers and delay in clearing them. BMR also here have been reaching out to help our members, working closely with all the stakeholders in the industry to ease the problem. We have been working also with MRAI and other associations in India, ICA and ANMA, and with the support of our friends in MRAI and other associations, we were able to get positive results and getting the relief on detention and demurrage waivers, which was a big success for our buyers and our sellers. Again, I would like to thank Mr. Sanjay Mehta, MRAI President, for leading these efforts and achieve the great success for the whole industry. This cooperation between all our associations is the true image of the importance of our industry leadership to continue working closely together to help our players overcome such difficult circumstances. The Middle East region, with its vital importance and with the huge reserve of oil, was badly affected from the virus, as well as the oil price, a huge price drop, which was a double whammy on the economy, especially the energy-dependent countries, forcing governments to cut down on their spendings and delay their huge infrastructure projects and development projects. And these things which could have adverse effect on our industry in the future. For example, in the UAE, they had to delay the long-awaited Expo 2020. And in Saudi Arabia, they have today important projects with the Vision 2030, and they have to increase the VAT from 5 to 15%. With all countries in the region have eventually opened up its economies, businesses got back to normal activities, and I'm sure our industry is so resilient that we will be able to overcome the difficulties. I am confident that this virtual conference will create a large and safe platform for our Recycling Confederation to talk, understand, and have a reality check on the current situation. We look forward to the discussions of our speakers and panelists that will share their insights on the current and future market projections and address all questions and concerns the delegates may have. I am sure this will be a memorable and rewarding event for all of us. I would like to thank all the delegates and BMR members who joined us today. A very special thanks to our distinguished guests, speakers, panelists, and to our lovely host, Susie Buraj, BMR President, who delightfully accepted to host our event for the whole day. Taking this opportunity to congratulate her for being re-elected President of BMRA for a third consecutive term, wishing her all the best and success. Also, allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate Gary Champlin for being elected as ISRI new chair. Lastly, this event wouldn't have been possible without the enormous effort of all our stakeholders, our board members, ambassadors, and all our colleagues at BIR, ISRI, MRAI, and all the national associations worldwide for their support. A very special thanks and appreciation to our sponsors and exhibitors who are always there supporting BMR in bringing up such events. Also, a special thanks to our media partners. Last but not least, our organizing committee, headed by our board members, Fadi Aboud, Muzammil Haji Amin, Muhammad Jafar, Mir Mushtaba, and our dedicated admin staff, Hassan and Sheena. Thank you all one more time, and enjoy the day and enjoy the event.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, BMR President, Mr. Nasser Abura, for your highly informative presidential speech and for welcoming us all so warmly. We are all delighted to join you here and the BMRA board today. We are now going to start our first panel session where our distinguished guest speakers will broaden our knowledge of recycling industries in the Middle East. There will be a 10-minute Q&A session once all 4 of our guest speakers have spoken. Please take a moment now to locate the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. To help the moderator, please submit your questions whilst speeches are being made. I would now like to welcome back to our virtual auditorium stage to moderate our first panel session, Mr. Mir Mujtaba. Mr. Mir, would you please moderate the session?
Sorry. Thanks, Susie, for inviting me again. And let me take this opportunity first to thank our Honorable President for his wonderful speech. I know it was very informative to all of you all. And Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, first of all, before I go and moderate the session of Middle East, I would like to inform you once again that if you want to hear what is happening in every metal, plastic, electronics, or whichever subject you want, BMR, like I said in my earlier introduction speech, we have called the best people in the world who can come down and give the best speeches possible. They will give with their own experiences. And to moderate the Middle East, I am here, Mir Mushtaba, for you. Middle East is something which people are thinking, what is Middle East? Middle East is definitely a recycling material export zone until maybe a few years ago. Middle East has got about 17 countries within it, and it starts from the western part of Europe until the eastern part of Asia. So quite big, with 17 countries contributing over here, with Middle East having a big development plan. Middle East has been an exporter, but also for your information, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform you that there is a paradigm shift in Middle East. Middle East is not only an exporter, but also Middle East have started importing materials. With all our Middle Eastern countries encouraging industrialization going on over here, we are really proud to say Middle East is also an importing zone for good recyclable material. To start with, we have the best experienced people in the panel. We have four. One is, we are really honored to have Mr. Salman Abdullah, who's the Executive Vice President of Emirates Global Aluminium. When I was Googling on who is the biggest aluminium producer, I could find one in China. And I'm really proud staying in this land, which is a safe haven made by our honorable leaders over here, that Middle East EGA, I could see, is in standing number 2 in the world, but I have no much knowledge. We have the most experienced person in the Middle East, with his name called Salman Abdullah. He is the Executive Vice President of Emirates Global Aluminium, who is going to be the panel speaker for us. Salman Abdullah has led the health, safety, sustainability, environmental quality, and business transformation at Emirates Global, which is also EGA since 2016. He brings a real wealth of experience in designing, building, operating, maintaining large industrial plants. Can you believe that we could really have him accepted our invitation, and we are really honored to have Mr. Salman Abdullah. Before I go back to the panelists, I will also take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Dustin. He's the Commercial Director of EnviroServe. They are going to talk about their own companies, but I would like to say with pride, the biggest electronic or e-scrap recycling company in the world is based in Dubai. For people who know it, they know it. If they don't know it, Mr. Dustin will really highlight you. Mr. Dustin is an experienced entrepreneur with a passion for taking ideas from concept to implementation. He draws inspiration from an eclectic international resume that spans from startups in environmental, consulting, and professional sports too. So Dustin is not only a speaker on going to be e-scrap, but please, when you see him, you'll see him as a real sportsman coming and talking on recycling industry. Then we have our third panelist, Fadi Sharoor. He's the Vice President of Shar Metal Group of Companies, a family-owned companies for the last 70 years, and it's a third generation company, having yards and offices in Middle East, Europe, and Africa. And lastly, for the first time, we have somebody from the paper recycling industry coming in our panel. We have Mr. Shabir Haidri, who is a Group General Manager for Mahi Khori and Company, which also under that group, we have Union Paper Mills. So he's a General Manager having a vast experience on what is paper and how important paper is to contribute to the environmental situation in this world when there is a global warming going on. May I request right now, Mr. Salman Abdullah to come on the screen, and we start the session right now. Please welcome Mr. Salman Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Good afternoon. And thank you very much, Mir, Mushtaba Saab, for your introduction. And I think you are very good in explaining and exaggerating a little bit. But no, thank you very much. First of all, I mean, EGA is a primary aluminum producer, which means we are not in the business of recycling. But before I proceed, I would very much like if the video could be played.
Sheena?
Have you ever wondered what makes modern life possible? How our cities could grow? How cars became so efficient and safe? Aircraft light and strong? What helped put man into space? None of this would have been possible without aluminium, whose properties make it perfect for the thousands of products we use every day. Emirates Global Aluminium is the largest industrial company in the United Arab Emirates, outside the oil and gas sector. We make modern life possible, not only through our products, but also through our contribution to economic development, our innovation, the opportunities we create for people, and our commitment to responsibility. We were formed in 2014 through the merger of the UAE's aluminium pioneers, Dubai Aluminium and Emirates Aluminium. Today, we are expanding our business upstream and internationally to create a vertically integrated national industrial champion. Each year, EGA delivers billions of dollars in export revenue to the UAE through sales to customers in Europe, the Americas, the Middle East, and North Africa and Asia. We are constantly expanding our client base and demonstrating a true spirit of partnership with a huge amount of repeat business and many long-term customers. We sell an increasing proportion of our aluminium at home to our local customers, who use it to manufacture everything from window frames to car parts, which are used both in the UAE and also exported all over the world. For over 25 years, we have been developing our own technology right here in the UAE to continually improve the aluminium smelting process and make it amongst the most efficient in the world. Today, all our reduction cells run on UAE technology, and EGA was the first UAE industrial company to license our own large-scale industrial technology internationally. But at EGA, innovation is about more than just technology. It involves everyone. We believe in the potential of our people to contribute to continuous improvement, helping generate new ideas and saving costs. EGA directly and indirectly creates opportunities for tens of thousands of people, both in the UAE and internationally. Our own workforce includes a high proportion of UAE nationals, and we are pioneering the role of UAE national women in heavy industry. We are a major employer of science, technology, engineering, and maths professionals. EGA provides training to thousands of employees a year, and our accredited management training enables us to issue globally recognized qualifications. EGA aspires to be measured amongst the world's leading metals and mining companies in meeting its social responsibilities. We are committed to minimizing our environmental impact. At every site, we have programs to protect biodiversity and local habitats. We work with partners to turn our waste into feedstock for other industries. And in 2017, we became the first Middle East headquartered company to apply to join the Aluminium Stewardship Initiative, a global program to foster greater sustainability and transparency in the aluminium industry. Our aluminium has been used to construct landmark buildings from the Burj Khalifa in Dubai to the Esplanade in Singapore. It's used for airplanes and transportation systems around the world, from the Dubai Metro to the Shinkansen in Japan. Most major car manufacturers use parts made with our metal. Our customers manufacture packaging for the world's leading food and drink brands. We are a major producer of premium aluminium with one of the highest average purities of any aluminium company. As economies grow and living standards rise, industry experts expect demand for aluminium to increase by 50% in the next decade. EGA has reliably supplied the world with the aluminium it needs to make the products we all use. We make modern life possible. We are EGA.
So thank you very much for that. And I hope that gives some insights about Emirates Global Aluminium. And even though by volume, we may be fourth or fifth, but with respect to provider of premium aluminium, EGA is at #1. We provide the largest number of VAP products or value-added products with a total cast production capacity of 2.6 million tons per annum. And basically that means we are 4% of the world's aluminium production. We supply to more than 50 countries, and we have in the last 5 years put within UAE more than $2.1 billion in net income. As video says, we are the first ones to join the Aluminium Stewardship Initiative, and now we are a key member of that organization. And we also, what many people don't know, that UAE now exports its own technology to other countries on how to make primary aluminium, and we can go help them build their own plants. We are over 7,000 employees worldwide. Just very quickly giving a little bit more insight, we have 2 plants which are in the reduction process. So they make from alumina to aluminium. And very quickly, I mean, the power plant between Tawila and the Jebel Ali sites is bigger than many, many other countries, not just cities. And just to give you an idea, about 5,500 megawatt, whereas the Dubai city or Sharjah city is definitely a little bit smaller than that. On bauxite and alumina facilities, we have now successfully commissioned UAE's first refinery. So we do our own refinery of bauxite, which comes from Guinea. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the plant in operation in Guinea. And we are very active in that part of the world as well. So as a primary producer and being a premium provider to automotive, aviation, and construction, we need to understand that the top class end user are very much interested in what's called as life cycle assessment. So next time you are in the market and you go and pick up your Apple iPad or your Apple laptop, there will be a rating of how much carbon footprint it has produced to get it to your hands. What that means that from the moment the alumina is mined to transport it and to the production and manufacturing, at every step, a little bit of carbon dioxide is produced and let go in the environment. And that whole process is called as life cycle assessment. So this is a very quick and dirty explanation of what is life cycle assessment. It normally goes as shown here from the left-hand side, how the bauxite is extracted, transported, shipped, then into production, and smelting, casting, and the rest of it comes to on typically 11 tons of CO2 per ton of metal produced. How does EGA sit when benchmarked with the rest of the planet? So here you can see that there are 3 prime fuel sources, and energy in the previous slide you can see is the biggest chunk which contributes towards the life cycle analysis. Because we are in the Middle East and because we are gas-fired power plant, we sit around 11.3 tons of CO2 per ton of metal. If you go to places like China, where coal is the main fuel, this number doubles up. If you go to Canada, where it's primarily driven by hydropower, it's a natural resources which they have, and so it basically halves. Sorry, is there a question there? Yeah. So how do we go from 11.3 to down? So there are two things happening in the United Arab. So two things are happening in the United Arab Emirates. One is the upcoming Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park, which is already started, and by 2030 will be producing something like 5,000 megawatts. Same time, Baraka nuclear power plant will be producing something like 5,600. What that means that if we tap into even a small portion of it, our life cycle assessment will fall to 4 tons per ton of metal. So we have a way forward in which we can reduce our carbon footprint simply by leveraging what is available, what is very soon going to be available in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So why am I talking to a forum which is talking about recycling? And the answer to that is because this community can really help companies like EGA to reduce its carbon footprint even further. Let me give you an example. So from IAI data, the CO2 emissions from scrap recycling is about 0.55 tons per ton of metal. Hence, if one recycles, let's say 100,000 tons, instead of making primary aluminium, one mitigates its carbon footprint. So if you take the IAI number, the global average of 16.8, and instead make out of secondary aluminium, we save something like 1.6 million tons of carbon dioxide. So this number would be different for different regions in the world, but there you go. There is an opportunity for the recycling communities to come forward and join hands with the primary producers to help reduce the carbon footprint of our planet. Now, is this unrealistic? No. I mean, aluminium is a true closed loop cycle. It can be fully recycled, 95% reduction in energy if you recycle metal. 75% of aluminium which has ever been produced is still in use, and it reduces CO2 by a huge margin. And according to some statistics and some projection, up to 1 billion tons of CO2 could be saved by 2040. This is a very quick forecast prepared by IAI of what the aluminium production will be like in few decades. This is a very important chart because it shows the part the recycled metal can play in addition to the primary producers. In other words, the metal which we produce today will be our biggest competition in the coming decades. So why is this not happening? Some of the reasons are highlighted here. It's reliable access to quality scrap. Greatest barrier include segregation at source, proper collection, distribution, reliable and viable volumes. In the United States alone, $800 million worth of aluminum gets buried in landfills each year. And that's a huge loss. So loss recoveries is possible in consumer durables and packaging in particular, and parts with developing waste management infrastructure. Basically, this is politely saying where the waste management infrastructure is not there, maximum amount of wastage is taking place. However, we have seen that if we align our behavior, culture, and policies, improve the sorting, make sure the deposit returns are done, product design and investment in waste management infrastructure, we can improve the recycling numbers. Brazil, for example, recycles 98% of its aluminium. Germany is 89%, UK at 75%, and Japan at 82%. It's our time now in the Middle East to make our mark, to make sure that the recycling takes place in a more effective way. And this has a direct benefit for our planet. Thank you very much.
May I request Mr. Dustin to please come and start his speech. We have 7 minutes of Mr. Dustin time to start now. Please, Mr. Dustin, you can start now.
Great, thank you very much, Mir. Thank you for inviting me to this and the opportunity to address the board members and everybody tuning in from abroad. I can hear quite an echo on my end, and I wonder, good, it's been solved. Very good, to the technical team. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody tuning in. My name is Dustin Chernowski, and I'm the Commercial Director at EnviroServe. We are located in Dubai, and we, as Mr. Mir said earlier, the world's largest electronic waste recycling plant. Means that we're a processor, not a trader, a scrapper, a dismantler. We are actually processing the material. And I find myself in a unique position to comment on the state of e-scrap in the Middle East. Due to the nature of our business, we see material on its way in. We send it out downstream to smelters and refineries. So we have a very good finger on the pulse of the industry out here. We work with our neighboring countries throughout the Middle East, but also we're located throughout Middle East Africa. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment here, and we'll talk a little bit about our facility, our company, but really I want to answer 3 main questions today, and those are, number 1, is there an interesting and meaningful supply from the market for e-scrap? Number 2, is there a demand by the processors for that e-scrap within the Middle East? And number 3, what is the potential for the e-scrap industry here in the Middle East? And so, EnviroServe is uniquely positioned due to the nature of our geography. We have branch offices and facilities all throughout Middle East and Africa. Okay, one of our key concepts is to help clean up Africa, all the aid work that went in during the 80s and the 90s, all those computers that were donated, all the material that's in there. And then the lack of infrastructure to process that material leads us to be a recycling hub here in Dubai. But let's talk about the Middle East specifically. This facility here is one of the world's largest e-waste processing plants with over 40,000 tons per year capacity. We're accepting all major categories of e-waste, and so we see on a daily basis the state of the industry here in the Middle East. Ours is a granulation process, no chemicals going into the ground, no hazardous emissions going into the air. And so by granulating the material, we're able to recover every last piece of recyclable material, from the plastics down to the gold, platinum, and palladium. But let's talk about some statistics. Here in the Middle East, we are producing approximately 15 kilos of e-waste per person per year. Now, it's a very auspicious time to be giving such statistics because only a few days ago, the 2020 third edition of the Global E-Waste Monitor was published, and perhaps many people tuning in, and surely everybody on the panel with me has had a chance to see this report by now. A lot of very, very interesting statistics, and it covers all major regions of the world with recycling rates, but I'm going to draw a few relevant facts for the Middle East so that we can discuss our own industry here in this market. So with 15 kilograms per person per year and a total Middle East population of a little over 400 million, okay, we're looking at over 6 million tons of e-waste generated in the Middle East annually. 6 million tons. Now, to put that into perspective, our facility, which is one of the largest in the world, can process 40,000 tons. So very quickly, you can see that is there potential for recycling more of the e-scrap in the market? Absolutely, absolutely. Current estimates for the recycling rate in the Middle East is only about 5 or 6% being formally recycled. So does the supply exist? Absolutely. Is there a demand by the processors? Definitely. The formal side of the industry is still in its infancy, although growing quickly, but the demand is far, I want to say the processing capability at the moment is far less than the supply in the market. So it's good news for processors, not great news for people who want to use the recycled materials, because a lot of it, unfortunately, is going for export to other countries and quite possibly ending up in landfills. If I can speak specifically about the UAE, with a population of 9 million, if we were to have a 25% recycling rate, only 25% recycling rate for e-scrap, our own facility would be over capacity. We would be full every single day of the year. So we would need over 150 facilities just like ours to successfully process all of the e-waste that is generated in the Middle East alone. So is there supply? There is supply. Is there demand? There is demand. In fact, there would probably be more processors like us soon demanding some of that product. Now, what is the potential? My third question to answer. Well, the potential can be seen by looking north, south, east, and west at what our neighbors are doing. Europe, of course, continues to be the best example of what can be achieved through successful regulation, legislation, and more importantly, enforcement of that regulation. With some countries, such as Estonia, Poland, reaching 60 to 80% recycling rates for e-scrap, they're a shining example of what can be achieved when legislation and strong regulation and enforcement are in place. When we look into North America, we see that there's a lot of room for growth, with only 15% being formally recycled, the vast majority in the United States being exported. So, as you can see, with the Middle East being single-digit numbers of 5 to 6%, I mean, the numbers are difficult to even estimate because of the lack of tracking, because of the lack of usage of the formal recycling industry. We estimate 5 to 6%, and the Global E-Waste Monitor confirms. But there's a long, long way to go, and there's a lot of potential for improvement. And so, what does that mean? What is the future? And what will it take to sit with our counterparts in Europe, or at least get to North America levels in the near future? Well, I've already touched on it. Legislation and regulations continue to be developed and need to be developed throughout the 17 countries throughout the Middle East. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait have regulations and legislations in place. Enforcement is not strong at the moment, but it's coming along through the visionary leadership of the respective leaders. But we do need to see the enforcement of these regulations, and that would start by controlling or at least monitoring the import and export of these materials and allowing it to be processed locally, which would be a windfall for the local processors and the local economy. An extension of that would be getting in line with the Basel Convention guidelines and allowing, or at least participating in the free flow of materials transboundary. So, as we've talked about with my colleague, Mr. Salman, from EGA, the international community and the transboundary movement of material is incredibly important. And Mr. Mir touched on it as well. Allowing for the import of the material to be processed in country is an important development that needs to continue. And it will be the future of processors in the Middle East to have access to ready supply, but also for the countries of the Middle East to collaborate and achieve their highest potential when it comes to recycling of the e-scrap. So I'll end my time here by once again thanking you all for listening to what I had to say. I hope that the 3 questions that I answered are valuable to you and maybe spark some ideas of how we can collaborate with you in the future. And I will stop sharing my screen now. I think it's stopped. And I will end by saying that although the industry is in its infancy, we are ready for the next stage of development, and that is to join the rest of the world leaders in handling their own e-scrap in a responsible way. Thank you very much.
It was really wonderful. I see the figures in all its various coming days and conservative country. We want to really we are going to put in a garbage bag. I think should be done. But I think at the Middle East on numerous earlier was exactly we go to panel now of 7 minutes please. Only not only this panel we have trying to still requesting 7 minutes to complete. That will be a good support to all of us watching you. Thank you. And here I give on the stage to Mr. Fadi Sharo. Please, sir.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. I'll try to be very quick because it seems we are out of time by now. So we'll try to give you, can you hear me? Try to give you a quick overview about the non-ferrous recycling industry in the Middle East. So I'll try to share my screen here. Okay. All right. So the what's the importance of the Middle East non-ferrous recycling industry and the global recycling map? You know, first we need to look at the location. You know, the Middle East is located halfway between Europe and the Far East, where the major consumption is, and it's actually next door to India, was the big market and promising big market for the future. So the location is that the transit time from the Middle East to the Far East and to Europe and is almost like 15 to 20 days maximum on average, and to India is between 3 and 7 days. So this gives it a kind of a strategic importance and a kind of backyard for the Indian market indeed. Second important thing that the Middle East is an oil producing countries. You know, in oil producing countries, there are a lot of plans and ambitious, you know, budgets and plans for the next decade till 2030. So, and the governments had in the pipeline a lot of new projects to be built, and especially on the infrastructure, on the power plants, on the refineries, and on the desalination of you know, all the old plants. And this means more scrap to come. The third important issue is the quality of the Middle East scrap. As we know that the scrap processors has improved their international standards with qualities until the international supply chain became really dependent on part of the Middle East non-ferrous scrap items. And this gave the Middle East an important role in the international supply chain. And we have noticed this during this problems and the pandemic. So the situation was all okay until 2020 came. You know, what happened in 2020? You know, as you already know this, I mean, but let me tell you what is special in the Middle East. You know, Mr. COVID-19 show up and now everything got mixed up. In the Middle East, they considered that scrap and the recycling items are not from the essentials as most of the countries. So we had a total lockdown in the major cities. So the supply chain was stopped actually. And the scrap yards had to close at a certain part of time. On top of this, we have witnessed for the first time oil prices historically drop till a negative number. I mean, this is first time in my career to witness a negative number for oil price. What impact does this have? I mean, this had an indirect impact on the expenditures, on the budgets, and reorganizing the priorities of all the expenditures by all the governments around the Middle East area. And this for sure will have a direct effect on the supply and the quantities of scrap to be coming to the yards for processing. Starting from the 1st of June this year, you know, countries gave permission for yards to gradually open up. And it seems that we are catching up slowly with, and now at present, I estimate the rate of sourcing and quantities to be around 40 to 50% of the average rate of our volumes that used to come to the Middle East market or to be sourced from the Middle East market during last year. This have resulted in big losses for the scrap yards and operators and processors. As you know, we have everybody has the fixed costs, expenditures that you cannot cut, and you don't have any revenue coming. So we burned losses during that period, and I hope things will be covered up again from now till the end of this year. What are the near plans for the near future? Let me say from now till the end of the year, depending on the type of industry, but related to all the non-ferrous recycling industry, I think they have to be really careful from now till the end of the year, optimistic, but try to be waiting for the uncertainty to clear up. You know, still the uncertainty is there. So this means you don't know exactly now, like you are turning back again the engine, so you don't know what defects might show up. And from now to the end of the year, you don't know what, let's say, companies could have some more difficulties than others. So in this, for this reason, in my opinion, I think scrap operators in the Middle East will try to consolidate activities until uncertainties and clarity is really seen. Try to reduce unnecessary expenditures. Of course, carefully choose your partners locally and internationally, because also this pandemic have resulted in global difficulties with many industries around the world. If possible, to try to preserve the market share for every let's say, company in the Middle East, I mean, this would be a good job to try to preserve your market share now from till the end of the year. So we have to be optimistic, cautiously optimistic, and try to switch on the survival mode. In conclusion, I think what I really recommend to try to play it safe. You know, the industry this year is, let's say, playing defense football in the penalty zone, and where mistakes could be really fatal. So we have to really play it safe. Also, no room for adventures. So try to protect what you already have. This is what I do recommend for the industry in the Middle East, for the recycling industry. And I hope if you need any questions, just ask me. And thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to give this view. Thank you very much.
Thanks. It was great. Possible. Yeah, we are going to turn over this point and we see what question and answers are going to come forward so that you can answer. Lastly, we have Mr. Shabir Hydri. Just want to inform everybody, panelists, that there are some questions from Mr. Salman Abdullah and others too. So we'll come back after the speech of Mr. Shabir Hydri. Mr. Shabir, I have introduced you with a vast experience in the paper industry. Mr. Shabir Hydri is going to start his panel now, his speech now, with 7 minutes to go. What paper recycling is and how important paper recycling is in every human being and in this part of the world where there's a global warming, and how important it is to have a greener area and a real desert. Mr. Shabir, I pass to you. You can start now.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. This is Shabir Hydri. I'm the Group General Manager of MAHY Khoury. I have a slide with you. Hope you all can see my slides. So I'm going to talk about paper and paper recycling industry in UAE. So before I start, there's something about our organization. MAHY Khoury was established in 1930s, and this is now the third generation which is managing the company. We are quite well known in this region with about 2,700 employees and 17 offices located in UAE and Muscat and Erbil. We have business interests in manufacturing, trading, real estate, and hospitality. And of course, today what we are going to talk about is recycling. So we today are among the top 3 paper recyclers in the Gulf region. So I'll now talk about paper, our experience with paper. Union Paper Mills was established in 1987. We started on a very small scale of about 100 tons per day. At that time in GCC, nobody was aware about recycling or nobody cared about it. But so we were the first ones who brought in paper recycling in GCC. In 2005, we started with PM2, our paper machine number 2, with 300 tons additional capacity. So by 2012, we were manufacturing about 500 tons of paper every day. Then we started another paper mill in Abu Dhabi, which is known as Al Dhafra Paper, with a capacity of 650 tons of paper. So today, by the grace of God, we manufacture about 1,150 tons of paper every day, which is about 400,000 tons per year. And to do that, we require about 475,000 tons of waste paper, which we collect ourselves. So before I go on how we collect or what we do, just a small brief. I know all the delegates here, they know what recycling is, but I just wanted to brush this up. That, you know, finally, when you recycle material, it is you're processing waste into a reusable material. And doing that, what we do is we save resources, we reduce carbon footprint, we reduce the waste which goes to the landfill, and of course we save a lot of energy. And that is why it is said that reduce, reuse and recycle, which can be not just paper, it can be plastic, it can be metal, and a lot of different things. What about paper, and why were we interested in paper? Because when you recycle paper, when you recycle 1 ton of paper, just imagine that you are saving 17 trees. You are saving 380 gallons of oil. You are saving 3 cubic meters of landfill. You are saving 4,000 kilowatts of energy. You are saving water. So there's a lot of savings which is done. So my request to all is that before you pick up a piece of paper, you print something on it and throw it. Just imagine how much resources we are wasting. And how do we do it? So what we have is we have our own team of about 1,000 people who are, you might have seen in the streets of UAE. They wear blue overalls with Union Paper Mill or Al Dhafra written on them. Their job is to collect paper from various sources, whether it is hypermarkets or supermarkets or malls or repackaging centers which are there in Jabal Ali or whatever. So we have our own system, we have our own fleet of transport, we have our own MRF stations everywhere in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Alain. So we collect things, we build our paper, and then we bring it to our paper mill. So on the right, you can see the picture that we bring in paper in bale forms, which is waste paper, and then we convert them into jumbo rolls. These jumbo rolls are then sent to packaging industries. Packaging industries are the ones who make cartons out of this. Our production is about 1,150 tons, what I told. 60% of that is exported by us to about 40 different countries in the world. And 40% of this is used locally. I know I'm going a bit fast because I have only 7 minutes for me. So this is just to give you an example that where does paper recycling stands against Europe. That in Europe, there are 134 million tons of paper recycled every year, while here it is only 4.3 million tons every year compared to the population and everything. And this is what are the paper grades which are manufactured in UAE. If you see, packaging grade is 64%, which is why it is like that. Because in this part of the world, you never get virgin fiber. This place, if you are manufacturing paper, you have to do it by secondary fiber, and that is second paper. So you see, packaging grade 22% is tissues. Nowadays, there are companies which use a bit of paper also. I will skip slide. I'll go directly to slide number 10 because I would like to discuss a bit more onto in there. And that is, what are the challenges and opportunities of recycling in this region? What are, let us say, as a recycling paper mill, what we have, we face competition from all over the world, especially from Europe and Asia. Whenever, let us say, the market is not good in Europe, or whenever the market is not good in Asia or in India, the finished paper from those countries are dumped to us. So we face a lot of problem of matching the prices of paper which is dumped here. Apart from that, the raw material which we generate here is not recycled fully, because like us, there are other traders whose job is they collect paper and then they export it out to either to India or to China. So on one hand, we have an issue about collecting enough waste paper, and on the second, we have an issue of finished paper coming here at a cheaper price. And the third thing, which previous speakers also spoke about, that in this part of the world, there is not still the waste management policy is not matured. I'll give you an example that each of us living in UAE, we generate waste about 2.3 kilos every day, each of us. So if we total that, it is about only in Dubai, 7,000 tons of waste is going to the landfill every day. And out of that 7,000 tons, about 20% is paper. So you can imagine how much paper is going into the landfill. Same way, how much cans, how much plastic, how much of electronic waste, everything goes into the landfill. And that is where I feel that there is a lot of challenge and opportunity in this part of the world, that companies which are there who can give us, let us say, technology on better sorting machines, or machines which can sort different material in a faster way. If those kind of machines are coming here in MRFs here, it will help a lot. And with this, I conclude my presentation. If anybody has any questions, for sure I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabir Bhai. It was really very nice, a very informative information. And everybody, I think, in the normal life should know how important it is to recycle paper, when we all know that it's almost 17 trees we cut off just for a ton of paper. And recycling is so important subject. A lot of information has come in, at least if not for me, if my kids and all are watching, my family is watching, is a very good information. I think we have to take it from there itself.
Yes,
so may I request now, I'll pass on the mic to the person concerned with regard to Q&A. There are some Q&As lined up, which we have to wind up very fast. May I request Mr. Sanjeev Phadke to start with the Q&A session, please. On to Sanjeev Phadke, who is also a board member.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Can I be heard? Okay. The question is to Mr. Salman from Mr. Salam Sharif. Though you have privately answered it, but for the knowledge of all the viewers, the low oil price was one of the main advantage to EGA. With lowest oil prices ever, having abundant oil supply worldwide, would this make EGA less competitive worldwide? Is the question.
No, actually, it's the other way around, because as I shown in my presentation, that different producers already have long-term contracts, either with coal plants in China, or with the hydropowers or other industries in Europe and Russia. So actually, when the oil price comes down, all the derivatives thereof also comes down. So actually, it's advantageous to us as our margins actually improve. Whereas this is not available for someone who has long-term contracts with, let's say, hydro or any other contracts. So it has no impact on them. The concern for us is when oil prices are extremely high, then our tariff, our electricity bill can go up. But this time around, it was beneficial.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Salman. The next question is to Dustin. Is there any regulation in United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia that e-waste has to be sold or recycled by licensed e-recyclers only?
I can't speak specifically to Saudi Arabia, but I can tell you that in the United Arab Emirates, there is a a process for the disposal of the e-waste, particularly because it's considered hazardous waste. So in Dubai, there's a waste disposal system, which is a permitting system that allows you to register your e-waste, allow it to be processed by and through a licensed processor. And for large multinationals or anybody particularly who has strong compliance issues, perhaps from Europe or North America, that paperwork is important for them to show that they've properly disposed of their material. However, enforcement is always the key, and it's up to the individual companies to make good decisions and use the waste disposal system.
Thank you very much, Justin. The next question is from Mr. Pathak, Nepal, to Fadi. It's a little long one. I'll just read it out. China's partial ban in importing solid waste in 2016 triggered crisis in several export-oriented markets, fueling waste pileups in countries including US, Japan, and Australia. Just a few days ago, China announced that country will stop accepting and approving solid waste import applications from overseas. In this context, what will be the impact on recycling process globally? And what do you think can be a sustainable solution of recycling process in each country?
Yeah, it's a good question, and really puts the finger on the point of what's happening now at present. You know, the answer is that we have started to see this last year and before last year, when there was some, you know, trade conflicts between US and China. A lot of US material has to go to other countries in Southeast Asia to be recycled there for end product. So the answer to the question is that if China is out of the game, many products like ICW, electric motors, and others will have to be processed locally in each individual country. This gives an added value for the Middle East recyclers because of the logistics, because of the location where the material can come to the Middle East to be recycled, processed in the Middle East, and have downstream equipments where they can, the final end product can be at a state where China can take it either in, let's say, a pure copper or ingot form, or the raw material can go to Europe again and to the US markets. So the answer to the question is that investments are to be done in the countries where they generate scrap to try to upgrade the scrap until a position near to the final, near to a semi-final product, what can be accepted by most of the countries. This is we are seeing it coming, and that's the that's an advantage and a positive point for Middle East recyclers, where they can invest. There's a lot of free zone areas in the UAE and the countries where they can operate and initialize such facilities at very competitive costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadi. There are several other questions, but I think we are running out of time. So I would rather request people to keep sending their questions, and we will forward them to the experts and try to get their replies to you. So I hand over to Mir.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjeev. Thanks for performing this Q&A very well. And I once again would like to thank all the panelists, Mr. Salman Abdullah, Mr. Dustin, Mr. Fadi, and Mr. Shabir Haidari. Very informative information has come in, and I'm sure all the delegates have benefited with this latest information. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Our first session ends over here. We have a break of about 15 minutes now. And before we go for the break, I would highly appreciate if you can watch the video of expert comments Now coming in from Mr. Muhammad Al Gharian, who is the chairman of Al Gharian Metal Recycling Company in Saudi Arabia. They have been very well known. Everybody knows who Al Gharian is, based in Saudi Arabia. And we are honored to have Mr. Muhammad Al Gharian's video recording. He cannot come over here, but he sent a video recording which we would like to play. And please, as a respect, he's spoken in the local language Arabic with subtitled in English. Very informative and very interesting. Please do watch this video. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أشكر منظمة إعادة التدوير في الشرق الأوسط BMR لإتاحة الفرصة للحديث عن آثار جائحة كورونا وآثارها الاقتصادية على تدوير المعادن في المملكة العربية السعودية والشرق الأوسط بالكامل. بداية أتقدم جزيل الشكر لمقام مولاي خادم الحرمين الشريفين وولي عهده الأمين على ما قدموه من دعم للحفاظ على صحة المواطن والمقيم على هذه الأرض المباركة على حد سواء، وكذلك دعمهم اللامحدود للاقتصاد ولجميع المتعاملين في الأسواق لاستدامة أعمالهم والاستمرار لتخطي آثار هذه الجائحة. وكذلك أتقدم بجزيل العزاء لجميع ذوي المتوفين بهذه الجائحة، وأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى الشفاء لجميع مرضى الكوفيد 19 وجميع منهم لحقهم ضرر من أثر هذه الجائحة، وأتمنى السلامة للجميع. وفي الحقيقة الكورونا كانت يعني شيء يعني غير الحسبان، في يوم وليلة، في يعني خلال فترة وجيزة جميع الأعمال توقفت. لاحظنا على طول الأسواق ضراب العالم مع التجاوبات، يعني فعلا تعطيك دليل قوي كيف تتعامل وكيف تكون الأمور. الإنسان دائما يتغلب على الصعاب، خلق للتحديات. خلال فترة رجعت الأمور أفضل وأفضل، الناس بدأت تتعامل، الناس بدأت تبيع وتشتري، الناس بدأت تأخذ وتعطي. وكذلك كان المشجع الأكبر التزام الناس أو التزام الكيانات والشركات والوسطاء بجميع أعمالهم. فأنا ما سمعت أنه أحد تضرر كثير في العالم كله بأثر كنسلة عقود أو أمور. بالعكس، العالم صحيح صار في تأخيرات، لكن في الأخير ريكفر وصار في استمرار كامل في التعامل، ونجحت الأمور إلى أفضل ما يكون، وبدأت الآمال والأسعار ترتفع والناس تتعامل وبدأت الأمور تتحرك. فهذا يعني دليل قوة الريسايكلينج وإعادة التدوير في جميع دول العالم. لا استغناء عن الريسايكلينج ولا عن التدوير في جميع الظروف. اللي حاب أقوله أنه العالم كله يعني تأثر سلبي كثير، وبنفس الوقت عالج المشكلة، وبنفس الوقت صار في طلبات وفي يعني رجعة للحياة الصحيحة. وما دام في رجعة أكيد الريسايكلينج مطلوب وأعمالنا مطلوبة ويومياتنا أكثر نشاط وأكثر اكتيفيتي، وهذا شيء جميل جدا. جميع من يعمل في إعادة التدوير في العالم كله هو مساهم في صحة البيئة، في نظافة البيئة، في جميع الأمور الناجحة. وهذه كلها يعني من آثار أو من متطلبات النظافة وآثار يعني إزاحة آثار جائحة كورونا. فأنتم مساهمين بما أنكم في تجارتكم بالريسايكلينج برضه للحفاظ على هذه الحياة وعلى هذه النظام اللي احنا نعيشه بالكامل. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى التوفيق الدائم للجميع، ونسأل الله النجاح الأعمال لكم ونوصيكم دائما إلى يعني تنظرون للجانب اللي هو المضيء والجانب الجميل في أتمتة الأعمال وتغيير مفاهيم كاملة. تدوير المعادن أو الريسايكلينج هو جزء من الحياة، والحياة صاير فيها تغييرات كاملة وأشياء كثيرة قبل وبعد الكوفيد 19. فأنتم قادرين دائما بخبراتكم وبأيامكم الفائتة وأيامكم الجديدة لصنع المستقبل الحلو والمشرق وإيجاد أعمال وإيجاد بزنس للجميع وتعاملات جميلة بين الدول وبين الكيانات والصداقات المستمرة. وكل شوق لكم جميعا. إن شاء الله نلتقي في المرة هذه افتراضيا، المرات الجاية إن شاء الله نلتقي في المؤتمرات في BMR وغيره وغيره، ونلتقي وإحنا بصحة وسلامة وعفو، وتكون الجائحة منتهية وأعمالكم مزدهرة وأنتم بخير ومن تحبون، وجميع منسوبيكم وأهليكم إلى خير وبركة وتوفيق تام. كل الشكر وكل التقدير لكم، ونسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يحفظكم جميعا وأن يبارك لنا ولكم. أخوكم محمد القريان، رئيس مجلس مجموعة القريان.
That was the videography of Mr. Muhammad Al-Garian. He covered up very well, starting from the difficulties of pandemic, which we have been going under. At the same time, I could really watch with subtitles how positive he was that in future, it's very soon that instead of virtual conference, we are going to meet each other with sound health and long life. Thanks, Mr. Mohammed, that you have given a wonderful, not only a speech, but also a blessing to all the recyclers, and also the best part is all the human beings in this world. We appreciate your message and we take it as a blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite now with the video recording of the most experienced personality, the largest ferrous trading group in the Middle East, or maybe one of the biggest in the whole Asia, Mr. Sanjeev Garg of Indica, who is also a main sponsor for the events of not only this virtual conference, but also the coming conference for the networking Diwali celebrations. May I call upon Mr. Sanjeev Garg's video to be played on? The chairman of Indica, Mr. Sanjeev Garg.
I would like to welcome you all to this first ever virtual recycling conference hosted by the Bureau of Middle East Recycling. I thank the board members of BMR for giving me the honor and privilege of being the guest speaker today. Who would have thought that our world would come to a day where instead of meeting in person at our annual conferences and sharing good times together, we would have to resort to communicating through the electronic medium. But I guess we will have to be prepared for the unexpected to happen at all times, anytime. Most of us have witnessed and survived the global financial crisis of 2008, which was the first of its kind we have observed in our lifetime. No one would have ever imagined that another crisis like this would hit us again so soon and so severely. The COVID-19 pandemic is going to leave a lasting scar on the global economy and all of us for a long, long time. The only redemption to this pandemic will be the quick development of an effective vaccine and then getting at least 70 to 80% of the global population vaccinated. The population that matters, the population which contributes to the global GDP. Then only can everyone overcome their fears of this pandemic and get back to a normal life once again. I reckon this process will take at least another 15 to 18 months to achieve. In the global economy, the sectors that are likely to be hit the hardest are consumer discretionary, which are travel, tourism, hospitality, entertainment, etc. The effect of these sectors in the global economy, along with their allied industries, makes me assume that until an effective vaccine is found and implemented, the global economy will probably function at around 70 to 75% of its pre-COVID levels. For our trade and industry, this would mean reduced demand and at the same time limited supply. I reckon over the next couple of quarters, demand and supply in the scrap metal industry should balance itself globally. But it's important for all of us to remember that price volatility will still be there and will be more frequent in occurrence than ever before. If prices are to move within a 10% range, I think we should all be quite content. But who knows what volatility lies ahead. The true effects of this pandemic have not yet been known, felt or reflected in any economic data coming out of various countries. Lockdown was implemented when life prevailed over livelihood, but now livelihood matters more and therefore countries are opening. However, as economies begin to open and businesses are faced with lower demand, especially in the sectors I mentioned earlier that will be the worst hit, which form almost 15% of the global GDP, the effect will slowly start to manifest itself in an ugly manner. Hence, I would advise all participants today to be very watchful of what happens during Q3 and Q4 of 2020, with the hope that by end of the Q1 of 2021, we will be very close to development of an effective vaccine. Price volatility also brings to fore the element of commitment by the buyers who renege on contracts, especially on CLE basis. It is vital for our traders to be careful and not to get carried away. Once the seller has performed a contract to its fullest and has no pending disputes with the buyer, it is very unfortunate that buyers still tend to renegotiate the terms of the contract in many different ways. It is necessary for associations like BIR, MRAI, ISRI, and BMR to set up a dispute resolution mechanism with quasi-judicial authority to assist the trade and make it healthier for all of us, something like a consumer court. A similar treatment must be meted out to scrupulous sellers who take buyers for a ride. I have not spoken today about the price trends as I really do not know the future, and I definitely do not know any more than all of you as to where the prices will trend in the days to come. We are all faced with a lot of uncertainty and volatility, particularly with the ongoing pandemic, its after effects, and the geopolitical events which lie ahead, such as the isolation and persecution of China or the forthcoming US presidential elections. We simply have to live in for the moment and avoid putting too much emphasis on a long-term view until the world returns to normalcy. For now, I wish you all the very best for your business and the health and safety of you and your family. Thank you. Namaskar.